China's successful policies in combating terrorism in the province of Xinjiang. Uh, Viewers and attendees, as well as participants who are on the Zoom, I would like to inform you that Senator Nisar Memon, who's a former Minister for Information Technology, who has also been the head of the IBM for over a decade, and is currently heading a number of uh, what you call think tanks, and is doing paramount work as far as the water issues are concerned. He is chairing this particular webinar, and I would like you, sir, to please take a start and formally commence this webinar. Over to you, Senator Nisar Memon.
Thank you, Group Captain Hari. It's a great pleasure for me to join you all today, and I welcome every participant speaker to this online seminar of Pakistan-China Center for Friendship and Cooperation on an extremely important global subject, which you have organized with your tremendous knowledge on the subject. In fact, what I see the plan, we are going to be joined by eminent speakers from world over, representing Asia, Pacific, Europe, and America. They will share with us in a day-long deliberation their first-hand knowledge and combined experience of China and Xinjiang of over 100 years. I wish you all a very productive deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. So now I will invite the first speaker for this webinar. He is none other than Dr. Shafe Moiz Hali, who is an assistant professor at the National Defense University, the prestigious institution here in Islamabad. He has his MPhil from George Mason University in the USA in public policy, and it is his doctorate from the Hubei University of Science and Technology, which is located in, by now, the very famous, but although for the wrong reasons, city of Wuhan. So over to you, Dr. Shafe. Please share your thoughts with us.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum, everyone. I would first like to thank the organizers for giving me a chance to speak on the topic of Xinjiang province and its potential for the Belt and Road Initiative. Before I begin, I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest sorrow for all the victims of COVID-19 in Pakistan, China, and of course the rest of the world, because after all it's a pandemic. And I would also like to congratulate the Chinese government for tackling this COVID-19 problem effectively. Coming back to the topic, all the people gathered here today for this amazing seminar already know the significance of the Belt and Road Initiative. However, no matter how many times we discuss about the epic scale of this project, it still doesn't do justice to the enormity and the benefits it promises. After all, BRI aims at connecting 3 continents, Asia, Africa, Europe, via land and sea routes through 6 corridors, which is obviously no small feat. Forecasts related to the BRI predict a surge in economic activities along these 6 corridors to increase trade and economic prosperity for the connected regions. Connecting 3 continents via 6 corridors is a massive undertaking, which demands substantial investments. Historically, the Chinese people are no strangers to massive undertakings, and the construction of the Great Wall of China provides testimony of the Chinese resolve to undertake and follow through on massive projects. It is estimated that over $1 trillion are being invested across the BRI projects, principally for infrastructure development, which includes development of modern mega seaports, roadways, railways, airports, power plants, and telecommunication network systems. With the global economy these days taking hits, and especially in the recent past, firstly due to the 2008 global financial crisis, and now the COVID-19 pandemic, BRI actually seems like the only global endeavor which provides a glimmer of hope. Within China, the Xinjiang province is being developed as an economic hub for the BRI, as it did in ancient times for the Silk Road. In ancient times, the Silk Road came out of Gansu corridor into Xinjiang, and it broke into three main routes. That is, that it had three tributaries going forward: the southern, central, and the northern route. The southern route ran west along the northern foot of Kunlun Mountains and west through Chiklik County, Nia County, and Khotan area, reaching Kashgar. Then it went over the Pamir Plateau, reaching India, or passed through Afghanistan and Central Asia to reach the coast of the Mediterranean Sea or Arabian Sea. The second route, which was the central route, it ran along the southern foot of the Tian Shan Range through Chikilik County, Korla City, and so on, and then across the Pamir Plateau to Russia. And then the third route, which was the northern route, ran along the northern foot of the Tian Shan Range. It started at Hami County or Kumal area and went through Turpan, Urumqi, the Ili River, reaching the area along the Black Sea. It is because of this reason the people of Xinjiang province have cultural ties to various regions outside China. And they have this tenacity and ability to adapt to change because of their diverse cultures that they've been exposed to over the years, since ancient times. After all, the ancient Silk Road was not just the means of trade and commodities, but it formed the basis of cultural exchanges, and Xinjiang benefit the most from this. Part of this ancient Silk Road still exists today in the form of a paved highway connecting Pakistan to the Uyghur autonomous region of Xinjiang. Keeping the spirit of the ancient Silk Road alive, the BRI stresses significance on the Xinjiang province, which is why construction in recent years within Xinjiang has been on the rise, owing to the fact that, just like ancient times, three economic corridors are going to stem from Xinjiang province. The first one is the New Eurasian Land Bridge, connecting Xinjiang province to Western Russia and then Europe. And the second corridor is the China Central Asia West Asia corridor, which connects China's Xinjiang province to Turkey via West Asia, via Central and West Asia. And third, of course, is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, which connects Xinjiang province to the Arabian Sea while passing through the length of Pakistan. Post China's economic reforms in 1979, the economic growth in China started to rise exponentially, and this trend of high economic growth figures kept steadily rising for more than 2 decades, which resulted in massive wealth accumulation in the eastern part of China. As a consequence, the western landlocked parts of China remained fairly backward, which is why after careful planning in 2013, President Xi announced his policy for the initiation of the BRI. The main aim of the BRI from China's perspective was to bridge the gap between Eastern China and Western China and bring economic prosperity not only for China's underdeveloped regions, but also for the BRI partner countries. The foreign trade volume between Xinjiang province and countries along the BRI totaled $43 billion in 2000, which is actually a 13.5% rise annual. The export to countries along the BRI totaled $22 billion, which is a 0.7% rise, while imports from these countries reached $20 billion, making a significant increase of 31.7% from the previous year. Statistics from the Customs Department showed that Russia and Central Asian countries were the major trade partners of Xinjiang. Among these countries, Kazakhstan recorded the most foreign trade volume of $15 billion, followed by Russia at $8.9 billion. In addition, Xinjiang's foreign trade has more than doubled with some EU countries or European countries, including Armenia, Spain, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Bulgaria. And the major exports to these European countries include mechanical and electrical equipment and labor-intensive products. And the imports from these countries include energy and resource products. Xinjiang province is actually rich in natural resources and is blessed with vast mineral wealth and has a great potential for energy production and livestock farming. In fact, geological surveys of the region point out that there are roughly 122 types of minerals found in Xinjiang province. Several of these minerals have significantly large deposits. These include beryllium, which is used in various industries, like making radiation-proof windows, mechanical parts of different industries, mirrors. It is also used in the defense industry, telecom infrastructure, nuclear power plants, developing magnetic parts, electronics, and for making alloys for the healthcare sector. Xinjiang's Xinshin mining industry is listed amongst the top 15 companies producing beryllium on the planet. And the next mineral, which is highly abundant in the region, is muscovite, which is also used to drive mica. And China is the world's largest exporter of mica. And China roughly earned 64 million US dollars in 2018 alone from the exports of mica. The other mineral which is abundant in Xinjiang is the natron saltpeter, which in ancient times was used to treat meat, as refrigerators weren't invented back then. And so this technique of using saltpeter to treat the meat actually spread from the Xinjiang province to the connecting regions, even in India in ancient times. And potassium nitrate comes from natron saltpeter, and it has a wide variety of uses, ranging from making fertilizers, rocket propellants, to gunpowder. China exports potassium nitrate-based fertilizer. And in April 2020, the export figures reached their highest level at 7.88 million US dollars. And these figures are just for a single month. And China is overall the second largest exporter of potassium nitrate, and its exports in 2018 stood at 87.2 million US dollars. Other large deposits of minerals include serpentine, pottery clay. Iron is also abundant in Xinjiang, with known reserves of iron ore. They're estimated at 730 million tons, which is why Xinjiang's Bayi Iron and Steel Company is among China's leading iron and steel producing units, which earns roughly $1 billion US in revenues annually. Xinjiang is well known both at home and abroad for its muscovite, gemstones, asbestos, khotan, which is a form of a jade, and which is a rare metal. In Xinjiang, apart from the mineral wealth, Xinjiang is also blessed with a lot of water. In Xinjiang, there are approximately 570 rivers, 270 mountain springs, having an annual runoff of some 88 billion cubic meters of surface water. And this includes just surface water. We're not counting the groundwater. With numerous hydro power plants like the Altash Water Conservancy Project, Burchin, Chanko Dam, and etc. Xinjiang also has scores of potential for solar power production, as it receives an annual sunshine in the range of 2,600 to 3,400 hours. There are 9 high wind power areas in Xinjiang, which are located in the northern part and the eastern part of the province. Wind power's reserves in Xinjiang are estimated at 960,000 megawatts theoretically. Apart from the renewable energy sources, Xinjiang province has vast coal reserves, which account for the country's 38%. And there are a total of 24 coal fields in Xinjiang. Petroleum and natural gas reserves in Xinjiang are estimated at 30 billion tons, which account for more than 25% of the national total. Xinjiang is positioned as China's national energy strategy base because of its rich energy resources located in the hinterland of Asia and Europe. It borders on Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Mongolia, India, Afghanistan, with a land border of more than 5,600 kilometers. Xinjiang's geographical position enables it to tap into energy development sectors and create a huge energy market. The population in Xinjiang province is diverse as compared to other regions of the country. We all know that diversity brings opportunities, and having a diverse population is a plus for any country. The population in Xinjiang province, according to the 2010 census, was 21.8 million, and it comprises of Uyghurs, Han, Chinese, Kazakhs, Hui, Kyrgyz, and others. Roughly 10 million Uyghurs actually constitute the largest ethnic group within the total population. Despite Western propaganda and twisting of the facts, public health infrastructure in Xinjiang has been improving rapidly, and it is not like what the Western media portrays it to be. In fact, from 1949 to 2017, the population mortality rate in Xinjiang decreased from 20.8 to 4.2 per thousand people. The infant mortality rate also experienced a sharp decline, dropping from 400 to 14.9 per thousand, while the average life expectancy has grown significantly from 30 years to 72.35 years. Despite all the propaganda against China's central government's policies in Xinjiang province, the literacy rate in Xinjiang province is upwards of 95%, which is higher than that of many developed regions of China in the eastern part of China. There are roughly 12 universities in Xinjiang, which is less than the average number of universities in other provinces. To conclude, I would like to say that since the launch of the BRI in 2013, Xinjiang province has received a great deal of attention, and the local population has received extensive training to effectively participate in the economic rise of Xinjiang. And if you look at the picture between 1978 and 2018, we can see how Xinjiang has developed so far. Xinjiang has made great improvement in people's living standards. The GDP of Xinjiang has increased from 0.5 billion US dollars to a massive 168.6 billion US dollars. And the per capita GDP, which is striking, that it increased from a mere $45 to 7,000 US dollars. And tourism in the region has increased also, with the tourism department suggesting that 150 million tourists visited Xinjiang province in 2018. It is because of these investments and inviting developments, Xinjiang's companies are brimming with optimism about the initiative, but challenges also remain. To address the challenges, the regional government of Xinjiang plans to create 5 centers, such as Regional Transportation Center, Trade Logistics Center, a Financial Center, a Regional Medical Center. Although there have been improvements in recent years, particularly in the northern part of Xinjiang, where the economy is generally better than in regions in the south, infrastructures such as road and railways still need to be better connected to the south at least, though the literacy rate of Xinjiang is at par with the national average. Higher education lags behind other areas of the country, which could drag on development of the local economy. However, the rising interest of the Chinese central government in Xinjiang's development, these lags will also be straightened out in record time, I predict. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shafi. That was a very comprehensive briefing. It looks like you have carried out an in-depth study, and some of the figures that statistics you poured out for us are mind-boggling, but Xinjiang definitely has a future, and looks like the 3 evils which were encountered in 2009 and 2 years after that also, of extremism as well as terrorism and separatism, they are now behind us, and the policies of the central government are going to bear fruit. Thank you very much, Dr. Shafi. Okay, Ambassador Javed Hafiz, I'm going to request you to please read out your paper. For the participants, Ambassador Javed Hafiz is a career diplomat, has been a career diplomat, and has had a very rich uh, experience all over the world, but especially in the Arab world. He and I were colleagues at Riyadh, but he has also served as ambassador to a number of places, including Oman, including Myanmar, and he speaks Arabic very fluently, but he has also visited China, and these days he is writing for various journals and dailies, including the Arab News, and he also appears as an analyst on international channels, including Arabic ones, because of his knowledge of the Arabic language. I will now request Ambassador Javed Hafiz to share his thoughts on the subject. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sultan Mahmood Ali, and organizers of this seminar, which has brought together so many people knowledgeable about China, and who would be sharing their thoughts with each other today. Mr. Shafi Hali has made my job easier by sharing so much information. So I will not read from any paper because I'm used to speaking extempore. My topic is the Chinese success in Xinjiang province. Now, I'm not speaking from theoretical knowledge or for what I see in the newspapers. I've been to China thrice, and I've served as ambassador in two countries neighboring China, which is Tajikistan and Myanmar. So I've been watching the developments in China closely, and visited that beautiful country in 2014, again in 2016, and then in 2018. Out of these three visits, two visits took us to Xinjiang, and we had extensive tour of Urumqi and Kashgar. We were given various information. We exchanged thoughts with the local authorities, with the local think tanks. So I'll be sharing those experiences with you. As Dr. Shafi said, there was and there still is economic disparity between the developed eastern coast cities and areas and Xinjiang, which was some years ago, some decades ago, like a forgotten area in the wilderness. But since the policy to bring it in the mainstream began since 1978, I believe, the province has come up in a big way. I was talking about the disparity. From what I've read is that the per capita GDP in Xinjiang is just above 3,000 US dollars, whereas the average for Chinese citizen is 8,000 plus. So there is this big gap of $5,000, and efforts, one of the main policies is economic development of the region. And we already know through the previous speaker that this province, this region, which is, by the way, 1.5 times bigger than the area of Pakistan, has diversity of not only the population, not only houses some very interesting ethnic minorities, but also has a lot of diversity in topography, mountains and deserts, The biggest desert of Gobi is here. So many rivers, rich in natural resources, rich in subsoil and renewable energy resources, livestock, and is a big producer of cotton. So I see it as a future textile hub of China. Now, that much about the economic aspect. Now we will come to the second aspect of this province, which is its cultural diversity and its ethnic minorities. By the way, there are 55 ethnic minorities in China, and three or four very prominent ones: Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and Uzbeks. They live in Xinjiang, and as we have seen, they live happily. Their number, it is portrayed that there has been genocide over there, that the Chinese government has been very cruel on them. Well, I wonder if it was so cruel on them, if there were concentration camps over there, much of the population would have run away or taken refuge in the neighboring countries. That has not happened, and that proves that much of this talk is propaganda. In fact, I must mention that one child policy was not applied to the ethnic minorities of Xinjiang. That is why we see that the population increase in Xinjiang, Muslims included, was much higher than in the mainland China. The number of mosques over the period has multiplied. I have roamed freely in the bazaars of Kashgar and Urumqi and seen some of the Muslim historical sites, been to Afaq Khaja's tomb in Kashgar and also to the Eidgah area and to the bazaar in between. I saw perfect normalcy in 2014 and 2016, and there has been no incident of extremism since 2000. No recorded or significant incident of extremism in this area in these years. So, so much about cultural diversity. Now coming back again to the economic aspect, because the Chinese government policy is focusing on the economic development, on the literacy, on social stability, which leads to political stability. So what we have seen is that 10% of the Xinjiang people have been lifted out of poverty in recent years. Now, that has created social stability, higher incomes, more political stability in the region. Now, a word about what the propaganda media calls concentration camps and the Chinese government says are re-education and training camps. Those are the camps where the Xinjiang youth is being trained for vocational skills. They're being taught the Mandarin language. They're being taught the laws, because once they enter the big industries as skilled workers, they must know their rights, what are their legal rights, and what are the labor laws over there. So these re-education vocational centers and training centers are graduating a large number of Xinjiang youth, enabling them to enter professions, enabling them to earn higher wages in future, bring prosperity to the country, to the province, which is, by the way, is autonomous in the sense that it has it is largely autonomous in choosing its own policies as well. Let me also allude to another very peculiar factor which impressed me a lot, which is that Xinjiang cities have been twinned with major Chinese cities, and 19 Chinese provinces have uh, they have been asked to proportion to allocate some of their budgets for the development of Xinjiang. Now that creates integration and cohesion. That creates empathy. That has brought the rest of China closer to Xinjiang, and it has led to national integration. A lot of people, a lot of youth, particularly from Xinjiang, have gone to other parts of China to work over there and to set up their small businesses. In the recent years, that is between 2012 and 2018, um, the Chinese government has invested 2.35 trillion yuan in this region, which is a huge amount. And I have seen the hectic economic activity way back in 2016, uh, and I'm sure it must have picked up further pace because in 2015 we had launching of CPAC, which would bring the main aim was to bring the energy resources because the Chinese thirst for the energy resources because of its tremendous economic development taking place over there would increase. So all this has brought hope. From hopelessness, the people of Xinjiang have become very hopeful. I could see a glimmer of hope on their faces, and more importantly, this region will be connected to our northern areas, to rest of Pakistan, to our KP, to our Punjab, and most importantly, to our largest province of Balochistan. So with that, I would end, and the rest can be covered in the QA. And I thank you again, Mr. Hali. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador, for your very detailed talk. And one point you brought out, which needs to be highlighted, is that you mentioned that the various cities in Xinjiang and the province itself have become twin to the more opulent eastern provinces and cities, which not only share their wealth but invest and are trying to bring out parity as well as create empathy with the people of Xinjiang. That is a remarkable step, and thank you, sir, for highlighting it. Now, participants and those who have joined us, the attendees, I would like to share with you my views on the subject. And let me, at the outset, say that while COVID-19 has brought out the worst in us, as well as the best in us. When I say the best in us, because there are countries like China and a number of others who are endeavoring to share their experience and trying to alleviate the suffering of the rest of the world, while there are others who, out of sheer spite, are trying to attack China for various reasons, perhaps because they want to pull it down or destabilize it. And one of the soft targets they have found is the province of Xinjiang. They think that by spreading rumors and fake news, they'll be able to mold the opinion of the world and try and bring the angst and wrath of the world on China. But let me assure you that as a person who has traveled to China, and especially the province of Xinjiang, from 1974 onwards as an Air Force aircrew, more than 70 times, and more than a dozen times as an analyst, as a journalist, and especially having toured the entire length and breadth of the Xinjiang province and having authored 6 books on China, I don't consider myself an authority, but as a serious student, and I can assure you that I have studied the aspects of the propaganda which has been carried out by the Occident, and I found most of it is totally baseless. And another thing I would like to say that I belong to a country, Pakistan, which has been in the eye of the storm as far as terrorism is concerned. We have lost nearly 100,000 lives, and but we have managed to conquer or at least overcome the scourge of terrorism. But when I visited Xinjiang, 2009 onwards, and especially lately when I also saw the terrorism museum in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang, I was amazed and tears came to my eyes and I thought I had seen it all. But the way some of the extremists who were misled by people, they brought it out. But what is remarkable is that the people and the government of the Xinjiang Autonomous region, as well as the central government, have managed to put this scourge of terrorism, separatism, and extremism behind and brought Xinjiang into the main course. Now, let me share with you a PowerPoint presentation. Could you please switch it on? Next, please. Next. But today, the Xinjiang province and especially its capital Urumqi and various other cities like Kashgar, which was mentioned by Ambassador Javed Hafiz, and Kurla and all, they are comparable to any Western modern city of the world. Next, please. Here I would like to share with you a very short video that the Western media will not talk about the billions of dollars that have been spent by China. Please watch this short video. It's less than a minute. In 2018, 21 airports in Xinjiang handled 33 million passengers. And to add to what you call provision of transportation, a high-speed railway has been established. Metro has been also placed or installed in Urumqi and a number of other places. Next, please. The Chinese efforts are reflected in the exponential GDP growth of the Xinjiang region. And as you can see, it has nearly touched 1,200 billion yuan, which is equivalent to 171 billion US dollars, which is remarkable for the uplift of a region which was once totally backward. In fact, the first time I landed at Urumqi, I thought I was landing at Skardu airfield, with due apology to Skardu. Next, please. Next slide. Now, it was mentioned by Dr. Shafe as well as by Ambassador Javed Hafiz. There are about 20,000 mosques in Xinjiang, and it has been propagated that the Muslims are not allowed to practice their rituals. But last year I was there in the holy month of Ramadan, and I saw not only people offering their prayers regularly, but I also saw the provision of itikaf in various mosques, which is fantastic. And the number of people who are coming for prayers, and there are, you see, one mosque for every 350 persons, which is much more than you can say anywhere else in the world, including the United States of America. As you can see, the people of Xinjiang, they appear in movies, in entertainment programs, and so on, and they have raised their quality of life and standard of living tremendously. Next slide, please. Now, there's another short video. This is of an upper-class Uyghur wedding, and please see how opulence is apparent from this particular video. Please run this video. And it is not unusual to see Uyghurs rising to high positions. Now, I have two examples here. Arkan Emirbaki, who's the vice chairman of the National People's Congress since 2013. He's a member of the powerful Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party. And on top of it, he's a Muslim. So there is no clash of interest or contradiction. Then we have An Wire, the Uyghur man who is the Chinese ambassador to Bahrain in the Islamic country. And I must say that I've also met a number of other Uyghurs who are doing extremely well in the Chinese society. Next, please. Now, here is an example of a Uyghur shopkeeper who is making sweet meat and is running a bakery and earning her livelihood, keeping her standard of living and maintaining it for the sake of her family. Next. Then there are some very poor villages, as you can see from the visuals here, but even they are receiving a stipend and the opportunity to improve by the establishment of training centers where skills are being taught. Next. The children are taught not only their own Uyghur language, but Mandarin Chinese. And I've also attended sessions in their secondary school where they have the option to learn a third language, which may be Spanish, which may be French, Arabic, or English, of course. And I talked to young students who were about 12 years of age, most of them Uyghur, boys and girls, and they had such a command, not only the language, but also about the international affairs and what's going around them. And it was a pleasure to meet and have a sensible discourse with them. Next. Now, you can see from this graph, the bar chart shows the rise in the Uyghur preschool enrollment and how it has risen now to nearly 148% in the Uyghur areas. So it is, I think, they deserve kudos for this. Next. Now, let me show you another short video, which how the Chinese government helped a rural Uyghur family in Xinjiang move into modern housing and helped everyone in the family get jobs. Please run this video.
奶奶都在这儿生活，我也在这儿生活。我们家后面是山谷，前面是河。每次下雨的时候，我们家前面都发洪水。当时我就想着 我在这儿生活该多好呀！今年我听爸爸说要搬到县城里去了，听了这个消息之后，我们全家人也很高兴。我上学校也更方便了，也很高兴去县城里去住新的大房子，我的梦想也成真了。
Okay, as you can see, the video which just depicted that a number of projects have been undertaken where people have been taken out from a rural background where they were living in abject poverty, and they have been provided houses. Now, having authored 2 books on Chinese culture, I can assure you that the Chinese are very conscious of saving face. So these people who were taken from abject poverty are not treated as beggars. Instead, they have been, not donated these houses, but they have been provided at a very, very meager contribution, and they will be able to pay back. Plus, they have been also provided the ways and means to earn their livelihood so that they feel responsible citizens and contribute to society. Now, let me talk a little bit about the fake news. Another source for crazy propaganda is the social media, which posts sensational fake photos and videos that quickly go viral. And it tests the average IQ of people on social media. Now, for example, there's a video of an Indonesian police beating up a thief, but it has been projected as a Chinese being beaten up, and it is depicted that he was a Muslim and he's being given corporal punishment just because he was reading the Quran. And such videos, they get millions of views and they add to the propaganda. Now, there's another case of a photo from a sex BDSM club in Taiwan, which claims that Uyghurs were being tortured in China. There's another viral video in 2020 which claimed to show a handcuffed and blindfolded Uyghurs being led by the police. It was actually an old video of another province, Guizhou, where some non-Uyghur, that is the Han people who were thieves and who were caught because of massive financial fraud. But that picture has been depicted as Uyghurs being led by the police. Next, please. Then there are stories and fake news about Chinese Uyghur Muslims being forced into labor factories, and there are stories of slave labor, which is totally baseless. I have personally visited numerous factories, numerous installations where construction is taking place and where Uyghurs are working, and nowhere I found even a single trace of either forced labor or slave labor. So this is a totally debunked myth. Next, please. Then they talk about concentration camps. But the important thing is that we Muslims, we are very conscious about how Muslims in other parts of the world are treated, and especially a country like Pakistan, which stands up for any downtrodden Muslim community. Not a single Muslim country has raised its voice because it knows that the concentration camps are fake, and I personally visited them. They are not concentration camps, but they are re-indoctrination camps where some of the Uyghurs who were misled are being taught Chinese constitution, the Chinese law. They are being given lectures on subjects of their choice, and they are being given vocational training. So you see, major stalwarts in the Islamic world like Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Malaysia, even Saudi Arabia, Turkey, they have dismissed the stories of concentration camps. Next. Now, a lot has been said about BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. I'll only mention one aspect, that thousands of freight trains and trucks carrying goods between China and Europe transfers the tracks, railway tracks, as well as roads, and they all pass through Xinjiang when moving from China. And there are many oil and gas pipelines from Central Asia that go through Xinjiang to power China's industrial economy. Next. One more video I would like to share with you. This is a special program, Uyghurs Got Talent. Please watch it. So that was the end of my presentation. And with that also, I will conclude my talk. I only hope I have not overshot the allocated time, but since I'm the moderator, perhaps I could take that liberty. I will now request our fourth speaker and the last in this first session, Engineer Zamir Awan, who is not only an expert on Chinese culture and Chinese affairs, but he also has a command over the Chinese language. And he will share with you your thoughts. And I'm sure he is also going to show you a PowerPoint presentation. Over to you, Zamir Awan, sir. Go ahead.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. When we talk about Xinjiang, it reminds me of my youth. I was a teenager when I traveled to China, especially to the Xinjiang. I have been to Xinjiang around 20 times. I spent a long time in Xinjiang. I have been to almost all big cities of the Xinjiang, but it was in 1980s when I was a student studying in China, Shanghai. But I used to spend my summer vacation and sometimes also winter in Xinjiang. Xinjiang is one of the most beautiful places in China and one of the most interesting place for tourists also. How I will change this?
They will change it for you. You just tell them, they will keep changing it.
Next. This is the Xinjiang, the red one. So you can see how big it is in Xinjiang. Go to the next slide, please. The area of Xinjiang is 1.6 million square kilometer, which is much bigger than Pakistan itself. The population, according to census in 2018, is around 25 million. You can compare the population of Pakistan and the area of Pakistan, so you can see how less dense is the Xinjiang province. There are only 15% per square kilometer. Has very densely, very low density of the population. Xinjiang has a border with Mongolia, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. With rest of the provinces of China, it has a border with Tibet, Gansu, and Qinghai province. Before talking something about the Xinjiang, we must know the geography of the Xinjiang. It has a border with at least 5 major countries, seven countries in the neighborhood, which is very important. So all of the development in Xinjiang will have a direct impact on its neighboring countries, especially on the Belt and Road Initiative. Xinjiang is a very diversified topography, having the high mountains, having the desert, having snow-covered peaks. The highest peak in Xinjiang is 8,611, and the lowest place in Xinjiang is 150 meters below the sea level. I have been to one place that is Turban, near Urumqi, capital of Xinjiang province, which is below the sea level. That city is below the sea level. In the summer, hot summer, the daytime is very hot. Temperature almost close to 50 degrees centigrade. But in the evening at night, it is so nice that at night you need a blanket to protect you from the cold. So the diversity is a lot of diversity is available there. The GDP of Xinjiang is 162 billion, is 26 in, according to Chinese. Next, please. Sorry, this is the same one. Backward. The history of Xinjiang is a very long. It has recorded history, a documented history of 2005 years, 2500 years. Xinjiang joined China through the Qing dynasty in 18th century. Before that, Xinjiang was having its own kingdom. There was famous kingdom of Koshan and some other famous kingdoms emperor were there. But in 18th century, it became the part of China during the Qing dynasty in 18th century. When the People's Republic of China got liberation in 1949, it was automatically part of People's Republic of China, and then as a province it joined as the People's Republic of China, and then in 1955 it got the autonomous status, which is very important. Next one, please. Geography and the geology of Xinjiang is very interesting. It is the 1/6 of China's total territory and quarter of its border length. I mean, the China has a border with many countries. 1/4 of the border, international border, is in Xinjiang. The population of this area is 9.7% of Xinjiang's total area. It was according to census in 2015. Next. Xinjiang was traditionally an agriculture province, and agriculture was the major source of income and livelihood for the centuries in Xinjiang. Of course, Xinjiang is blessed with the natural resources. Mining and minerals are very uh, abundant there. Oil, gas, and coal reserves are there in huge quantities. Next, please. Unique model of development. In fact, China you can divide in two regions. One is the coastal area, and one is the inner China. The coastal area of China is highly developed and has reached to a saturation almost. Especially the new development along the coastal areas is very competitive, and very tough competition are facing. So now the China is developing the inland areas like Xinjiang, Mongolia, Qinghai, and Gansu. So Xinjiang is getting priority on Chinese from the Chinese government for its development. And Chinese government has a unique model of development of this ignored area or poor areas or backward areas. 19 provinces and municipalities, including Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, Zhejiang, Liaoning, which are very well developed. they are engaged in making peer with the Xinjiang, the various cities of Xinjiang to develop Xinjiang. They not only bring their rich experience and the capital, but also they share their experience and capital, and they are shifting the industry. They are also training the local human resource. So this is a unique model of Chinese development for the Xinjiang, and I have been to Xinjiang so many times. I can witness really there is a every time I go to Xinjiang, I see some new building, new road, new construction. You can see from the development of this infrastructure the happiness from the faces of the people. Next one. In agriculture, mostly it was the arid land, but the Chinese has converted the desert into the cultivatable land. Especially, I've been to a place, a city, Shirkhaz, which was completely desert, the Gobi Desert, part of Gobi Desert, and they have converted the desert into cultivatable land. Now they are growing there vegetables, grains like cotton, wheat, maize, and all other things, fruits. So it is less green area now. The major grains of Xinjiang are wheat, maize, millet, and rice. Rice because the Chinese majority are eating rice as a staple food. However, the Xinjiang people prefer wheat, but the Chinese mainland people, the main area people, they prefer the rice. So they have, on experimental basis, they have started the cultivation of the rice, which has a very encouraging response. And now many parts of Xinjiang are growing rice, and it's good quality rice. Cotton is a major product in agriculture of Xinjiang, and they are exporting. Xinjiang is famous for its fruits, especially the grapes from Turfan, melon from Hami, pears from Ili, walnuts, Hami, and all these places. And the fruits from the Xinjiang are very popular and sold in rest of the China at a much higher price because of their good quality. In livestock, the Xinjiang people they like mutton and they have the many sheep farms and goat farms. But recently, of course, they have also started to the beef and also seafood also, especially the freshwater fish and some other like shrimps and all these things are very popular in Xinjiang. Next, please. Mining and minerals, I think the previous speaker, Mr. Hali, Shafi Hali, has also introduced the strength of Xinjiang in mining and minerals. I will just add only one thing that some of the precious metals, some of the very rare metals, earth metals, are available in Xinjiang in abundance, and especially uranium is also available. Also, Xinjiang is rich in oil and gas, and also coal reserves, which is the major source of energy for the Chinese development. Next. Xinjiang is located in a very strategic location. It is bordering with 7 countries. It is on the traditional Silk Route of China, and it has a history of the traders traveling in this part of this country, and it joins Central Asia, South Asia, Eurasia. Next one. Belt and Road Initiative is one of the most important initiatives of the Chinese government, especially the President Xi Jinping has launched a We own it. This is the Chinese dream, and this is Chinese vision of development. Belt and Road is connectivity. Connectivity is the neighboring countries. So the most probability of having more connectivity is through Xinjiang. So Xinjiang need extraordinary development of infrastructure. There are so many new airports have been built, so many new motorways and highways have been constructed. So almost Xinjiang is very well connected with its neighboring countries. Regarding CPEC, which is our major concern, I believe development in Xinjiang is vital for the success of CPEC. I would strongly recommend having the railway linkage between Xinjiang and Pakistan will have great impact on the rapid development of CPEC. And definitely the Chinese are sincere and they are thinking about this one. However, this area, the topography within the Pakistani, on the Pakistani side as well as on the Chinese side, is very tough. It's high altitude, high mountains. So it is a mega project. It might take time, but with the establishment of the railway track between Xinjiang and Pakistan, you will see the difference of the developments. Next, please. I think that before saying thank you to everybody for their patience, I must say that Xinjiang has a huge potential for development, is a huge niche area and barren land and virgin land. Chinese government is investing heavily in Xinjiang, and Pakistan should take advantage of Chinese government policies and be connected or involved with the Xinjiang enterprises and organization for the speedy development of CPEC. Thanks a lot for your patience.
Thank you very much, Engineer Zamir Ahmed. It was a very elaborate talk, and I'm sure other participants and attendees must have learned a lot. Senator Nisar Memon, are you there on the line, sir?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience. With your permission, I would like to start the question and answer session.
Please do. I think it's very important. And there are some questions on the chat also. Please address them also. There are 3 or 4 lying there. 3 questions. Do you want me to read them? I can see that Saliha Gul, she says China is blamed for forcing Uyghurs into family planning. Is it true? I'm sure this has been covered very well with the what we see in the address that has been made. But I think maybe someone answered. Then Palwasha also talks about Western media shows images of Chinese Muslim minorities.
Let's take them one by one, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do. Thank you. I leave it to you to pick up those questions, please. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. This first question is extremely important, although it was partially covered. There has been a very concerted effort on the part of the Occident to spread the fake news that sterilization of the Chinese Uyghur men and women is carried out in an attempt to carry out ethnic cleansing, as well as to ensure that the race of the Uyghurs and their demographic figures reduce. Now, this couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, one aspect which stands out is that in the last 18 years, the population of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang has exactly doubled. Now, how would that be possible if any kind of sterilization process was being carried out? Now, would anyone else like to add anything to this?
And also, one of the speakers also alluded to the fact that there is one child family in China for the Hans, But for the Uyghurs and for the Muslims, this policy does not apply constitutionally. This also belies the fact that they have been forced into family planning, because Muslims there have not, this law of China does not apply to Muslims.
Let me respond.
Engineer Samir Awan would like to say something on this.
I lived in China in 1980 as a student for 7 years, and then as a diplomat in Beijing from 2010 to 2016. I know it very well. The Chinese policy toward the minorities was excellent. When I was student, we used to get quota system, that with the coupons for the meat. Only Muslims were allowed to get the meat coupon for beef and mutton. There was a shortage of food, shortage of meat. The Chinese non-Muslims, Han people, they were getting only the pork. Uh, if a university has more than 5 Muslim students, they arrange a Muslim mess or restaurant for the Muslims. And if there are less than 5 students, then they provide the extra money to them to manage the halal food. All over China, you can find the halal food or Muslim restaurants everywhere almost. Of course, the areas which have the more concentration of the Muslim, like Gansu province, Ningxia, Qinghai, Xinjiang, there are more Muslim and more Muslim restaurants. The areas which has less population of Muslim, like Guangzhou, Shanghai, of course there were few Muslim restaurants, but almost available every big city or every small cities of the China. And this policy of one child was very strict. I know it very well. Nobody can dare to have the second child. The people were punished. They were imposed penalty. They were fined to have the second child pregnancy. But all the minorities, including the Muslims, they were exempted. So the minorities can have more than one child. Even Uyghur, Hui, or non-Muslim minorities are also allowed to have more than one child. So this policy was strict only to the Han people.
Okay, the next question is, this is from Palvasha Iqbal, and she has not mentioned which city or countries she is speaking, asking this question. But anyway, the question is more important, or rather the message is more important than the messenger. She says that Western media shows images of Chinese Muslim minorities being kept in concentration camps. This is very pathetic. Now, who would like to answer this question? Ambassador Javed, would you like to say something on this?
Yes.
Please.
I think there is a lot of fake news about these camps, what are called the concentration camps in certain media. The host asked you to start your video. Okay. These, as I said in my talk, these camps are re-education and training camps. They give a lot of valuable skills to the Xinjiang youth, because this area, as it develops, and it is developing at a very fast speed, it would need more and more skilled laborers who would come from this area, and they are being taught, all trades like electricians, plumbers, heavy machinery operators, electricians. So, and apart from that, they are being taught the language, the Mandarin language, because I saw it myself in Urumqi and Kashgar. There is a language problem. The local people do not speak the mainland Mandarin language. So, as and when they learn the mainland language or the Mandarin language, they will be better integrated with the rest of the population. They'll be able to go to other provinces and work over there. So, these, I was reading somewhere that, this information is based on the drone or satellite pictures of concentration camps and forced labor, but there are people who have physically gone there and seen that these are not forced labor camps, but actually re-education and training camps where those who have gone into or have tendencies like extremism are also taught that this activity leads into bloodshed of innocent people and is not beneficial to the society. Thank you.
Let me add one thing.
Please.
Uh,
I think in addition to what Ambassador Javed talked about, there was also a picture and a statement of President of Turkey, Erdogan, who said these re-education camps will not affect the situation, because he was very clear and he understood that these were to create languages, to teach laws, and also vocational training, just like the Ambassador Javed talked about. So I think there is just a propaganda. If somebody doesn't want to believe, then it's another. But the fact remains that these are very extensively open, covered, and many people have visited that. Thank you.
Let me add one thing more. The Western media, who is making these propaganda, let me ask the Western media, they know about what is happening in Kashmir? Do they know what is happening in Palestine? Have they made the similar propaganda or such reports in their coverage about Kashmir, oppression in Kashmir or oppression in Palestine? If they are biased, it's shame.
I would like to add something on based upon my personal experience. Last year, I visited Xinjiang, and I also visited a number of these re-indoctrination camps, which are labeled as concentration camps. They were nowhere anything like a concentration camps. In fact, all the inmates there, they are there on a part-time basis. These are people who were slightly misled by the extremists, and they were told that they have to rebel or something like that. But since these were minor offenders, they have been asked to join the re-indoctrination camps, where, as Ambassador Javed Hafiz just informed you, that they are given vocational training as well as a hobby of their choice, which could be painting, dancing, singing, or whatever. Plus, they are given the knowledge of the Chinese constitution and the Chinese law, because these people were lacking in such fields which are very important for conducting normal day-to-day life. So therefore, this is a pure propaganda. The next question is from Sana Afzal, and I'm glad that there are a lot of ladies taking interest in this webinar. She says that we heard that Chinese government does not permit Muslim minorities to practice their religious rituals. This is very harsh. Senator, would you like to tackle this question?
Yes, I think this is an amazing thing. The Chinese government, I have personally seen way back in 2010 when I went to Urumqi with my wife, and this is around the time when there was this terrorist actions were taking place. But frankly, I didn't see any, because it must have been in some part of the in Urumqi. But we visited a mosque because it was a Friday. So the practice, and these were not foreigners praying there, like Pakistanis or Indonesians or Turkish, but these were Chinese. Uyghurs were practicing their own religion. And then we also talked to some of the people there, because this was very much coming in the news. So it was high in our mind. So we just asked them through the interpreter. And then suddenly, because you don't really know what the interpreter is saying, suddenly someone was English. I used to ask, are you English speaking? Can you understand? They said, a little. And then we conversed, and I said, what is your family? They even invited us to come their house. So I would say that Chinese all around are allowed. It's not only Muslims, because they're also Christian. They are Orthodox Christians also. All religions, according to the constitution, they can practice that. But obviously, this is not a state religion that they can openly go and do it, but they can, all religions, including the Buddhist, they can practice their religion within the bonds of the Chinese constitution. And this is where I think is very important to understand that the laws are very important. And it is one country where the laws are not only made, but are implemented. Had that not been the case, all the efforts of the ISIS, the ISIS, the fundamentalist Muslim would have done exactly what they did in Pakistan. Didn't they kill our hundreds and thousands of people, Muslims, killing a Muslim? But here since there was a state which could control, which could introduce the laws and implement those laws, I think it was well contained. And today, imagine that Xinjiang is a different place. I haven't visited after that, but I just saw the pictures of Group Captain Hali. I really would like to go there because it is more like a Shanghai, or this is more like Los Angeles, or whatever places that you name. So these are developed. I think all countries have issues, but I believe that this issue about the Muslims is not that I would believe that it is there. But this is a propaganda which you have to always answer, because Western media continues to belie themselves. Because on one hand, they talk about the United Nations able to visit there. On the other hand, they continue to talk about it. Because as they say, continue the lie, one day people will believe it. I think they're following the Hitler's policy of propaganda, and one day people will believe it. But I think in this case, they have miserably failed because of Chinese strong leadership, which has combated it with removing the causes of the poverty. And as you heard, we all heard, my God, the phenomenal growth in GDP, the phenomenal growth in their infrastructure and everything that we heard in the three presentations, which I think was an eye-opener even for me to see after 2010, in 10 years, so much of difference has made, particularly because of the current president. He has been able to bring this BRI policy. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Please, Ambassador Javed Hafiz would like to add something.
Well, Senator Nisar Memon has very ably tackled the question. I just want to add that the Chinese government recognizes 5 religions clearly, including Islam, Protestant Christianity, Catholic Christianity, Buddhism, and Taoism. And all these 5 are allowed to freely practice their religions and go to their places of worship. Now, in addition to that, if the Chinese record on the human rights and religious practices was so poor, then why would the Human Rights Consultative Council in Geneva this year in April nominate China on the consultative group, its consultative group? And last year, 12 Muslim countries, including Pakistan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, praised the Chinese policies in Xinjiang. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think there are no more questions. So with your permission, Senator Nisar Memon, we would like to close the first session and invite the participants to join us again after a lunch and prayer break at 2:30 Pakistan time. Thank you so much, everybody.
What time?